Brilliant. Thank you all for joining the Miller and JLB webinar. Today we're going to be discussing one of the most fascinating and interesting topics, in my opinion, which is around Google AdWords and the technical applications of Google AdWords for e-commerce. But before we begin, there's just a few little bits of housekeeping that we need to get out of the way first. So on the right-hand side of the GoToWebinar application, there is an area for you to post all of your questions and also a chat area where we can start to make this a bit more of an active discussion. We really want to hear your feedback throughout the webinar and also get more information and more questions from you guys so we can start to get our expert panelists discussing these topics today. We're also a social bunch, so as part of this webinar, we're encouraging you to tweet, to post on social media, either at @miller or at JLB Florida, where we'll be able to continue the discussion long after the webinar has finished. And finally, the whole session today will be recorded, which means that all of the attendees, thank you very much for joining. We're going to send you out the recorded version of this session after the webinar has finished, so you can share it with your friends, your colleagues, or anyone else that you think might be of interest. So without further ado, please tweet, please post your questions in the chat panel on the right-hand side, and we'll send you out that recording after the webinar has been completed. We've got two fantastic speakers today and panelists on this particular webinar. The first is Jenna. Are you there, Jenna?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Jenna, thanks so much for joining. So Jenna's the Director of Business Development over at JLB Florida, but I'll let her give a little bit more context, a little bit more background as to her as a panelist and as a business, what JLB Florida are doing on this particular occasion. Also joining us, we have my colleague Ben from .Miller. He runs the North American operation for .Miller, is the VP of Ops over here, and he's been working in the e-commerce field for a number of years, like Jenna. So what we'll do is pass over to Jenna now to give a very brief background to JLB as a business, what she does, her role within the organization, and then we'll move over to Ben to do the same. Over to you, Jenna.
Great, thank you. So JLB, we have an office here in Florida as well as in Nashville. We're an award-winning marketing firm, and we specialize in business class service. So what that means is we really are a one-stop shop for our customers. Everything from hosting to e-commerce design and development, email marketing help, and obviously AdWords and other marketing strategies to drive more traffic, leads, and sales to your business. I've been in this industry for several years and have experience helping businesses grow. I love to help connect customers to their right clients online. So my current role is Director of Business Development at JLB Florida. I help businesses ranging from startups to companies with 250 million revenue a year grow through their customized digital marketing solution.
Awesome. You guys do an awful lot, and you do an awful lot within the business. Thank you so much for joining us, Jenna. I'm sure we're about to learn a lot more about AdWords than even myself knows. And the second panelist today, as I mentioned, is Ben from .Miller. Over to you, Ben. Do you want to tell us a bit more about .Miller and yourself?
Thanks, Stephen. So .Mailer, we're an email marketing and marketing automation provider. We have offices all over the world, including London, New York, Australia, and other regions within the APAC region. We have a global customer base of about 70,000 users, about 5,000 organizations, and really our mantra is all about making marketing automation easy. So through implementing drag and drop segmentation to drag and drop automation, really allowing online retailers and B2B businesses to utilize data in the most effective way possible to generate the most positive results they can through online communication. We do that by integrating well with other providers, such as Magento, Shopify, BigCommerce, and even leading CRM systems like Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. Makes all of that really possible by having almost real-time data synchronization between those platforms and .Mailer, and then having that drag and drop interface allows them to really utilize it to make the most of that information and have the most effective email marketing they can.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that, Ben. We've got a couple of experts on the line. I can't wait to get into the discussion around AdWords and e-commerce in general. Thanks, guys. So the first part of today's discussion is going to be around a deep dive into Google AdWords, which is one of Jenna's areas of expertise. So I'm Stephen. I forgot to mention that. I've been working at Dotmailer now for 6 years in the e-commerce field, but I've done a lot of work with my e-commerce clients around AdWords and email marketing and marketing automation at large. So without further ado, we're going to dive into the first area around AdWords. And this is a question specifically focused for Jenna. Jenna, as everyone can see on the screen, what are some of the typical design changes that affect conversion rates, in your opinion, from your experience?
Sure. So design is really important. You can have the best ads in Google AdWords, you can have amazing click-through rates, but it's really all about what are those conversion rates. And that matters because that's what's going to lead to you generating real leads and real sales. So the design of either the landing page you're driving customers to, or the product page you're driving them to, the design, the informational hierarchy is very important, and we always want to make sure we're focusing on those conversions. So typically when we have a customer that comes to us and they're not getting the conversion rates they want to see, that we're able to perform for other customers, we want to look at that design. A lot of it is just removing clutter. So when you first look at a page, the customer needs to know immediately, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to purchase a product? Do you want me to fill out a form? Do you want me to call you? Should be very, very clear. What are those calls to action? So typically that's the first thing. Let's clear out the clutter. Let's drive them to exactly what we want them to do. A lot of times we think it's great to have social share. It's great to have a chat. But especially when you get to smaller mobile devices, a lot of times you want to remove those features because all they do is add distraction. So I would say that's the most typical design change that really affects conversion is just removing the clutter, making sure those call to action buttons stand out clear, and really have great adjectives and great wording to make sure that the customers are willing to push those buttons and move on to the next portion of the website.
Perfect. I love the phrase "clear the clutter." It's simple, like the design should be, as you're saying. So to summarize, we're saying simplicity in terms of design. It needs to be a fluid journey, and it's not something that everyone thinks about. It's going from that AdWord originally all the way through to the landing page. There needs to be consistent and a fluid journey, but clear the clutter and make the call to actions very, very, very simple and very, very obvious. That's amazing advice. Thank you for that, Jenna. And that leads on really, really nicely to the second one. And there's obviously the different types of ads we can do. We've got static ads, we've got GIF or GIF, an argument we have all the time in the office, how to pronounce that one. But from your experience within AdWords, are static ads or the animated ads better when running AdWord campaigns? Does one convert better than the other? What's your advice? What's your experience? What have you learned?
Sure. I love this question because I always have customers that have, very particular preferences. I want GIFs, I want animation, they always convert better, but it's really not always the case. It's kind of a trick question because it really depends on your target audience and it depends where you're showcasing these ads. So when we're talking about static ads or GIF ads, these graphically designed ads, typically that's something in the display network. So it's in your Google display network. The person's not actively searching at that moment for your services or products. Either you're trying to get in front of them based on the publications they're on, their interests, their demographics, or you're doing it through remarketing. So they visited your site before, maybe they didn't convert. Now it's maybe within 30 days, you're showing them an ad to bring them back to your site to convert. We've seen such a different variety of results. What I always tell customers is let's test it, because it's really not about your preference. Me personally, I love GIF ads. We have some younger demographics where they convert really, really well. But the only way to really know is to test based on your data, your specific customers.
Absolutely. We find very similar things within the email field. They are attractive, the animated ads. They do catch the eye, but ultimately comes down to understanding the target audience, doing that analytics and understanding the journey that they've gone on. I really, really like the advice around the retargeting, the remarketing as well. That's brilliant. Is there any kind of top level statistics about the conversions? You're saying testing is ultimately, it's different for every client, it's different for every campaign, but are there any stats on the market?
Yeah, the stats for us, it really depends on the publication you're putting it on. So if something is a website where you're doing a quick browse, you're kind of, the reader typically is skimming through the site, animated ads do really well. If you have a site where people are really doing more research, they're reading more heavily, let's say it's like a medical journal or something where they're really reading fine print and taking longer on the page, it hurts the conversion rates because it's almost annoying for the customer because it's distracting them from the real reason they're on the page. So I would say really more than the demographic, look at where you're placing it. We've had ones, for example, we do the marketing for the Florida Panthers, the NHL team in our area, and we did the same type of ads in the same demographic, but the animated ads did a lot better on shopping sites. But on any publications where people were reading content, the static ads did a lot better. So I would say look more at the publications than at the demographic.
Perfect. That's brilliant advice. I know from my experience, clients, they always want the stats, but sometimes it's understanding the customer more is important. Amazing. Thank you for
and
that.
The A/B testing is really where it's all at. So do the testing, listen to the data for your specific results, and go off of that.
Perfect. Thanks, Jenna. What are ad extensions? That's actually something I'm not 100% sure on. What are ad extensions and how are they used?
Sure, there's a bunch of different kinds of ad extensions. Typically, we're going to group them based on what's your goal. What do you want the customer to do? Do you want them to convert on your site? Do you want them to contact you? Do you want them to visit your business location or even download your app? So obviously, download your app. That one's a little more straightforward. You have app extensions. So if someone's looking for a specific app, you can add the link in so they can go, whether they're Android or iOS mobile device, go straight to the app to download it. Now, when you want customers to contact you, typically you're going to go with a call extension. So what that does is if people are searching on mobile, they can do a click to call. So that's really great. It's trackable. You can even have a phone number in there if you don't have a call extension. And that's going to track, let's say I'm looking on my desktop, I call on my mobile phone, it's still going to track those conversions in your campaign. But those call extensions are helpful for mobile users. You also have affiliate location extension. So let's say you have a product, but you only sell it in a retail chain in that geographical area. You want a user to be able to connect to that retail chain store and find your product and be able to purchase it. Now, if you want someone to convert on your website, that's where we typically have the most versions of call-out extensions. So call-out can say free delivery, 24/7 customer support. It's kind of your unique selling points, any added value you can add there. You can also have site link extension. So if you want people to go to specific pages on your site, let's say you want to show them reviews, you want to show them how to use a product, especially if it's more of a revolutionary product that's kind of changing your target market, in the way they think about purchasing a product or using it, you might want them to visit a couple different types of pages. But again, you want to test them. You want to see where the customer wants to go. You can have review extensions. You can add quotes or rankings from different types of published sources. So it's going to show underneath your ad. You can also have price extensions. So there's really a whole variety of different types of extensions you can add to your app based on what is that goal. What do you want customers to do? Like I mentioned, download your app, convert to your site, visit your physical location, or get in contact with you.
Amazing. That's given me certainly a lot more clarity on ad extensions, and I'm sure all of our attendees have learned something there as well. So ultimately it comes down to where you're wanting more conversions and what influence that's going to have on what you show and the channels under which they're coming through. Thank you so much for that, Jenna. And the next, I guess actually it moves on brilliantly well onto the next question, which is how you can target specific audiences using the Google Display Network. A really, really powerful network. How can you use that to target specific audiences?
Sure. So I believe Google has a stat that says, 90% of people on the internet are targeted some way throughout the day through the Google Display Network. There's millions and millions of websites, within the Google Display Network. For some businesses, it's easier. They want to focus on certain geographical locations. For a lot of our customers that are nation or global wide e-commerce, they want to focus based on different things. So sometimes you want to target people based on interest. Sometimes you want to target based on demographics. So if you're targeting based on demographics, you can do age ranges. They break it down into a couple different age ranges. And to keep in mind, within age, gender, and parental status, there's also a status called unknown. So the only way Google is going to know what target demographic to put you in is if you're logged in. So a lot of users aren't logged in. So sometimes you don't want to target too much, or you want to do 2 campaigns to split test, one based on targeting for demographics and one not, to see if maybe those people that are logged in, you're not ignoring them and maybe they have better conversions. So that's something to think of too. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm super, super targeted in my campaign, but you have to remember sometimes that actually deters you from reaching some audiences. So you never want to forget about those unknown statuses as well. Now, when you target people based on interest, there's 3 main categories. It's going to be affinity. So you can say, I'm a sports fan, or I want to target gamers, and those are going to then break down, into more and more detail, and you can even get down to the URL and publication level. You can also do custom affinity audiences, where you can do something instead of a sports fan, you can do marathon training. So we use something similar to this for one of our clients. They are an Italian mattress manufacturer, and they have an unbelievable mattress that works on releasing the pressure in your spine. So we wanted to target marathon runners, cycle enthusiasts, because those are people that typically have more of that orthopedic pain and are going to benefit more from that product. So it was kind of a test campaign we did for them that went unbelievable. We got great conversion rates. And then the third one is in-market audiences. So you can say if someone's looking at a product that's maybe similar to yours, one that has slightly different unique selling points, or one that's a direct competitor, you can go after them.
I'm still in awe. The first stat around 90%. That's frightening, but at the same time very, very useful for us from a digital marketing perspective. I think I'm also going to have to get the name of that Italian mattress manufacturer. I've had some back problems myself recently. Amazing. Thank you for that, Jenna. And then the final question that we have in this section is around really the speed to market. How long typically is it taking to get these campaigns up and running? What does that process look like? How long is it taking?
Sure. So it depends on the health of the customer when they come to us. So typically when customers come to us, there's going to be either a landing page that needs to be built. There's going to be those design changes we spoke about earlier that's going to affect their conversion rates. The last thing we want to do is turn a campaign on, spend money, drive a ton of traffic, and see horrible conversion rates. So we want to first make sure they're prepared. So that's going to affect their timeline. Do they need a whole new site because it's not mobile responsive, for example, or just a landing page? So if it's a whole new site, it could be a couple months. If it's a landing page, it could be a couple weeks, depending on how fast we get feedback from the customer. But the actual build and setup of the campaign, we have unbelievable Google Premier partner reps here in our agency that can get a campaign up and running in less than a week. And we do insane segmentation based on days of the week, times of the day, keywords, negative keywords, a ton of competitor analysis before we even get started, split testing in our text ads, having a graphic designer design the display banners, whether they're animated or static. So for us, we really try to get that campaign up and running in a week. We have a lot of great support from our Premier reps in Google that give us great analytics and kind of a backstory of what's working in the market. The only question mark is, what is the health of their website, or where are we driving the traffic to once their campaign is up and running?
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Jenna. So essentially, it can be as quick or as long as necessary, but ultimately it depends on getting that client scope in place. I've just had a look at the question section, and we have a question from one of our attendees. It actually is referencing a few questions ago. Unfortunately, I missed it at the time, but it's asking what typically would a review extension look like. Could we have some insight around review extensions, if possible, Jenna?
Sure. So review extensions, they're going to pull either quotes or rankings from published sources. So you're going to have in any ad, you have your headline, you have the URL it's going to, then you have the description, and then underneath that, you'll have in slightly lighter font, it might even be slightly smaller, you'll have that quote either from like a journal, from a URL, it's going to pull it. It's going to be like most sought after product, or it's going to have, you know, a very, very small review. Think, you know, 4 to 8 words. You know, it obviously depends on the publication or the website it's coming from, because that's going to take up some of the space. And then, you know, whatever is left, you know, whether it's a quote or a statement, it's going to go right underneath it, and typically it's going to be a paraphrase review.
Amazing. That's a perfectly concise explanation. Thank you so much for that, Jenna. So I think that brings us to the end of the first section of the webinar, where we're talking around the AdWords. I'm now going to pass over to Jenna, who's actually going to take over moderation, and with some luck, should now have control of the mouse and the keyboard. So now we've passed on to the second one. There you go. You're able to move around, Jenna?
All right, great. So
Perfect.
Now we're going to switch to We're going to ask you guys some questions. The first, everybody wants to know, you know, what is Magento 2.2.2? We know Magento 1 is on the sunset, and we want to know, how does it benefit merchants? What is this new platform, and, you know, how are these benefits affecting customers?
No, it's a really, really good point. And there's been a lot of enhancements to Magento, especially since the release of the initial version, Magento 2. They've done obviously a number of incremental releases. And the latest, as you mentioned, is 2.2.2, which they released a couple of weeks into December. It has some really great advancement to it. The first one is Magento actually acquired a kind of business intelligence platform about a year ago now, and this is really now the first version of Magento that has that integrated in it, and they're calling it advanced reporting. So this is really taking what would normally be the default reporting that you'd see within an e-commerce platform, like the number of orders placed and the average order value, and really kind of taking that to the next level by using business intelligence. So it's cross-referencing AOV with times a day or day of the week, or categories based on the day of the month that they're selling in. So it's just giving the retailers using this platform much more insight into the sales performance of their site, and that's now kind of fully embedded within the Magento platform. The next one is Magento shipping. So this is allowing them to do much more advanced kind of multi-carrier shipping capability. So depending on what people are purchasing, where they're shipping it to, the weight of the product or the insurance that's needed, it's allowing Magento merchants using this latest version to really make sure that they're picking the best carrier shipping, not just for them as a merchant, but also best for their customer from a cost perspective. Also, last year, the patent that Amazon had on their instant purchase for the one-click buy button actually expired, and that's now really opened the door up to other platforms, other retailers utilizing that capability. And Magento have included that within this release. They're calling it instant purchase. That allows an existing customer who has a default credit card and a default address on record to effectively click one button on the product detail page to make that purchase and ship it. And then finally, obviously the bit that we're probably most excited about, we've been a Magento Premier partner for a couple of years, and we've now got to a point where we're kind of the default choice for any Magento retailer who wants to do email automation. And because of that, the .mailer extension, which kind of connects both Magento and .mailer together is now bundled within the core code of Magento. So every new site, whether it be community, enterprise or cloud, when they install this version or onwards, the .mailer extension is going to be there as default. So a kind of handful of features there, but all of them really just to help online retailers kind of take their marketing and their online store to the next level.
Thank you. That's such amazing benefits that Magento is bringing to the table with their new version. Here at JLB, we've been building Magento websites for years, and the switch to the Magento 2, we've seen so many less extensions needed to be added, many more native features, like some of the amazing ones you mentioned. And I think the fact that they're bundling .mailer is going to be a huge game changer for most retailers, because they don't realize the true power of email marketing. So I know our customers are very excited about that.
Awesome.
All right, great. So let's move along to the next question. It's going to be which e-commerce platforms is .mailer currently integrated with? What differentiates you from other tech solutions?
Yeah, so we've been really kind of focused on the Magento market space for about 4 or 5 years now. That was really the first e-commerce platform that we dived into. And because of that integration that we have with Magento is kind of secondary to none. It's probably the most complex, in-depth integration that's available on the market. However, as we're seeing the market shift with some platforms moving more into the enterprise space and even some of the lower end providers moving more into the mid-market, we have realized that we need to kind of broaden our capabilities. So at the moment, we've gone for Shopify and Shopify Plus, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Shopware, Salesforce Commerce Cloud and Magento. And actually between those platforms, we have almost 75 to 80% of the online market share of all e-com platforms. So we probably don't need to broaden ourselves even further than those ones. It'll just be a matter now of the integrations that we have with those platforms getting kind of more advanced and more complex. And the thing that really kind of makes us stand out from the other tech solutions is, I think I touched on earlier, is the ease of use of our platform. We want to take kind of all of the data that's within these e-commerce sites, things like the purchase history, the customer information, their average order value, total spend, all of that really important data that allows you to implement really advanced and complex kind of email automation or marketing automation capabilities, and synchronize that to .mailer in the most kind of seamless and quickest way possible, and then provide an interface that's kind of drag and drop and quick and easy to use. We're very aware that marketeers and online merchants are short of time, so every piece of technology that you put available to them just needs to be really quick and really easy for them, and that's kind of the thing that .mailer looks to provide, as well as providing all of the service levels that you need to help and guide you beyond that. So customer success managers, telephone support, technical pre-sales, integration experts. So you're not alone effectively. You get this easy to use interface with really deep data capabilities, as well as all of the services and the people you need to advance your email marketing to the next level.
Great. Yeah, that's so important for marketers these days to be able to do, drag and drop, not have to have a developer and designer involved in every email. And with that power of the data you guys pull in, you're really, second to none. What are the key components of a successful email marketing campaign?
The golden question. I think probably the key thing that I always really focus on is the availability and the accuracy of the data that you're using to implement a successful email campaign. You need to really trust in the data that you're using to make decisions. So whether you're performing segmentation or you're setting up automation campaigns, all of that is performed off the data that you hold about your customers. So making sure you've got a true grasp and understanding of where your data is coming from, where's the best source of truth, and also making it available at the speed that you need it is probably one of the key things. And beyond that, it's then also how can we deliver the right message at the right time, and that's really going to allow us to combat kind of diminishing engagement rates, because individuals are receiving more and more email campaigns from more and more retailers on a regular basis, and the downside of that is that their engagement levels, so open rates and click-through rates, are starting to decrease because their inboxes are getting overwhelmed. And the way that we're going to combat that is by making sure that when we do send them an email, it happens to be at the time where they're most likely to make a purchase. So whether you're doing that based on their browse behavior, or it could be the amount of days since their last purchase, and then also within the actual message itself, making it really personable to them. So talking about products they previously purchased, or upsells based on what they previously purchased, or it might be replenishment campaigns if it's health and beauty. It's like, hey, we know you bought this 8 weeks ago, it's probably running out. That sort of messaging and that sort of content, when it's timed at the right time, is what's going to get you the best results. And that's really kind of the success behind email marketing. And I think one of the questions we're going to lead on to next is not just the time and the messaging, but also the channel that you do it through as well.
Yeah, that's some great information. I just want to give a shout out to your research center and your website. I know our marketers here love it. You guys have some great reports, cheat sheets, white papers that kind of go into some of the topics you talked about in more detail. So I definitely urge everyone to check out your resource center on your website as well.
Thank you.
So how does a customer go about connecting their email marketing to a CRM system? Are there any particular ones that operate best or have better features?
Yeah, and this is something that we've definitely realized. We predominantly, about 4 or 5 years ago, we're predominantly a B2B kind of focused organization. We didn't have the e-commerce integrations that we have available today. And during that time, we focused on 2 of the kind of core CRM platforms. That was Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce. So with those CRM systems, we have apps or extensions that you would install within those CRM platforms, and that again just really allows you to utilize the kind of key data in your CRM system to perform kind of all those best practice email campaigns we talked about. So we synchronize your leads and your contacts. And we also, what's really important is we pull the reporting data back into those CRM systems as well. So when a contact or a lead opens an email, clicks on the link, replies, or shares it on social media, all of that data becomes available in Salesforce or Dynamics, and you can create dashboards, you can create workflows, you can create reports. So based on the engagement of those individuals with your email campaigns, it can then power some advanced kind of workflows within your CRM system.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's really helpful data to everybody. Anytime you can close that loop, from your CRM to your email, that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I think one of the trends that we've really noticed probably in the last six or 9 months now is a lot of online retailers were using probably much their e-com platform as their CRM system to hold their customers in. But actually the more advanced ones now are also looking to tie in an independent CRM system at the same time. So they've got this kind of customer profile in something like Salesforce, and then they've got the purchase data within Magento. And by utilizing a number of integrations, they can actually pull all of that into .mailer and utilize the kind of combination of that information to drive advanced email campaigns going forward.
Definitely. And that kind of leads us into our next question. Can you describe the importance of your recent acquisition and its role in the multi-channel ecosystem?
Yeah, we just before the kind of year end, we actually acquired an organization called Kamapi. Predominantly, .mailer has been very much focused on the email marketing side of things. It's kind of been our bread and butter for the last 18 years. We've had elements of kind of SMS capabilities, but that's kind of really been as much as we've done from a multi-channel perspective. And as I touched on a couple of questions ago, the engagement levels that people are seeing from email marketing, if you're not doing it properly, are starting to diminish because the end consumer is just getting more and more bombarded with email campaigns, and unfortunately that's causing them to become less engaged. And one of the ways you combat that, as mentioned, is obviously through the automation and segmentation side of things. But we really saw that the opportunity is going to be through sending people messaging through different channels. So Kamapi allows us to now integrate with things like Facebook Messenger, SMS, push messaging if you've got an app on your phone. It allows us to do live chat messaging, and all of that will be able to be built through our workflow engine. So you might start seeing that part of your welcome series to introduce a customer to your brand, if their second or third message that you normally send them falls over on a Saturday, they might actually be more engaged in receiving an SMS from you, or might be a message through Facebook Messenger. So that's going to allow us now not only to mix up the timing and the messaging, but also the different channels that we kind of complete these workflows through, and ultimately going to see far better results from all marketing campaigns by doing that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We've seen throughout a lot of different retailers, like you mentioned, that SMS option, or message me on Facebook. I think it's always great to give the end user, the control of how they want to be communicated to. So looking into the future, are there any e-commerce trends to look out for in 2018, and how does email fit in?
Yeah, I think probably one of the things that's going to be making a more and more of an appearance over the next year or two is really going to be the more affordability or the ease of implementation of things like AI or machine learning. At the moment, from a marketing perspective, it's very much down to the marketeer to understand what's working and what isn't, and be looking at the statistics behind their campaigns that they're running, and make those decisions on, okay, this is working or this isn't, or this message is working or this day is not working, and alter their campaigns. And I think as the cost of hardware, the powers things like machine learning starts to decrease and the availability of increases, I think software, such as Mailer and other technologies out there, are now actually going to start getting to a position where they'll start making those recommendations for you, so that the marketeer is going to have to work less to know what to improve and what to do. So, you might have a welcome series, and the software will then be saying after 3-6 months, because your metric is to generate sales, it'll know something. Maybe you need to change the content of this email to be more promotional based, because in other campaigns that you've done, we've seen that to get better results. Or rather than sending this on a Wednesday, send it on a Thursday at 4 o'clock, because all of your contacts seem to engage better on that day and that time. So I think that's going to be one of the main changes that we'll see over the next couple of years. And the second thing is really going to be the advancement of the internet service providers themselves and the capabilities that they allow from an email perspective. It's still very archaic. The iPhone kind of mailbox is probably the more advanced of the two, allowing like gifts, etc., to happen. But I think with the struggle for engagement through email campaigns, I'd imagine the likes of Gmail and Yahoo, etc., will probably start evolving their inboxes to allow much more kind of advanced HTML or CSS within them to try and make email campaigns more engaging. So whether it would be the introduction of video capabilities, or things like be able to do like surveys within an actual email letter and go to a landing page, I think that's probably going to also be evolving. So not just from our technology, but the internet service providers themselves that we're sending those messages to. So I think we've got to the end of our webinar now. So what we've got is a Q&A. So on the right-hand side, if anyone's got any questions and they want to type them in, we're more happy to answer them, whether it be AdWords based or email marketing based. We'll be more than happy to answer them if you type them on the right-hand side.
And if anyone is interested, I'm more than happy to do free audits of your AdWords, your website, or the landing page you're driving it to. You can even reach out to me on my cell phone. So if you want to write this down, it's 305-962-2500. Again, that's 305-962-2500. And we'll schedule an appointment, and I'll do a free audit of your AdWords and or your landing page and website.
And just from a final bit of housekeeping, today's webinar has been recorded. So all of the attendees that attended, if there's anything that you missed or you wanted to recap on, we will follow up with a recorded version. And you'll also have both of our contact details, so you'll be able to get in touch with any questions you have. So it looks like, Jenna, we've done an incredible job, because no one has any questions. So we've obviously gone into so much detail. We've done as best we possibly can. So I think we'll call that a day. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from everyone in the future.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jenna. Bye.